You're listening to the Keep Optimizing podcast to increase your traffic, improve your conversion rates, and grow your profits.
Hello and welcome. If you are looking to improve the performance and return on investment of your marketing, then you've tuned in to the correct podcast. In today's episode, I'm talking to Luke Carthy about faceted navigation because this month we are all about SEO. In today's episode, we're doing something a little special. Right now, well, if you're listening to this on the day it goes live, it is day 2 of our eCommerce MasterPlan virtual summit. And the main interview part of this episode is what Luke and I spoke about yesterday at the summit. Confused? Hopefully not. We recorded the insider tips and have that here for you to listen to as well as the podcast. So basically, we've kind of used the same awesome piece of content for both the virtual summit and for the podcast. Now, if you want to get access to the summit, then you can do that to get access to the one I did yesterday with Luke, which is kind of this, and also all the other summit sessions by going to keepopt.com/summit. That's keepopt.com/summit. We're just about to meet up with Luke, but before we do, please do check out the sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Klaviyo, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform for brands of all kinds and sizes. Whether you're an entrepreneur just starting out or you're part of a marketing team at a multinational brand, Klaviyo will give you everything you need to create memorable marketing moments. Building customer relationships that keep shoppers coming back time and time again. Get started with a free account today. Visit klaviyo.com/masterplan. That's klaviyo.com/masterplan. Now, we couldn't do a day on e-commerce customer acquisition without tackling SEO. So for this session, my guest is the brilliant Luke Carthy, SEO consultant, CRO expert, and new e-commerce startup founder. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about how to drive new customers by improving your faceted navigation. So let's get Luke up because he knows a lot more about this than I do. Hello, Luke. How are you doing?
I'm really good, Chloe. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm kind of like an amateur when it comes to things like faceted nav because I know there's a lot of power, but with a lot of power comes a lot of complexity. And I like the concept, but I've never really nailed it. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you to get all the audience beyond where I've ever got to with faceted nav.
Yeah, it's a tricky old beast, to be honest. But as long as you stick to a few ground rules, then it doesn't spiral too far out of control.
Oh, excellent. We like ground rules. But before we get into ground rules, let's set the ground, I suppose, which is faceted nav. I've heard different people call the same thing different things and use the same words for different things. So in this session, in this lovely little 30-minute bubble of quality, what does faceted navigation mean?
Okay, so the way I like to kind of visualize faceted navigation, it's the filters you see on category pages, typically on e-commerce, but you can find them on all sorts of places, listing sites, Rightmove, that kind of thing. But they're the filters that allow you to refine your results that you're looking at, whether it's brand, color, size, combination of all three. That's what we're talking about. We talk about faceted navigation. But yeah, people call them facets, faceted nav, filters, attributes. They've got so many names. So I've gone with the one that's most difficult to say because I'm an idiot. Faceted navigation.
And spell, just
yeah.
Yeah, let's just go with a really tricky one. Okay, so it's all those selections customers can make to play around with the product. So I said in the intro that this is to do with SEO, but is this really SEO or is this really CRO, as in conversion rate optimization, for anyone wondering what CRO is?
Yeah, do you know what? It very much is smack bang in the middle, which is why I'm absolutely all over it, because it kind of, straddles my both areas of interest, really. But it's absolutely got SEO potential in leaps and bounds, whether you're a startup, so brand new into the world of e-commerce, whole new site, whole new, business, or whether you're an existing, growth-based startup or even been on the web for years. Faceted Nav has opportunities in SEO that are really, really powerful. And from a CRO perspective, anything that's going to make it easier for your customers to find the products that they're looking for, and find products in ways that maybe your competitors don't allow them to do so is always going to be a plus. So yeah, there's definitely ways on both sides you can win with faceted nav.
And I suppose the other place where, obviously you've experienced over your career over the last X number of years that getting the CRO right really helps with the SEO. And of course, Google's moving in that direction anyway now, isn't it? So any job we can do that ticks both boxes is e-commerce gold, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, do it for your users, not for search engines. Well, they're easier said than done, but yeah, that's the golden rule there, I think. Lots of rules today. What's going on?
Lots of rules. We've got ground rules that we haven't yet gone through. We've got rules, we set the ground. Okay, so we are talking about improving or using the faceted. Are we talking about improving your faceted nav, or are we talking about using it to achieve something that it's not obviously designed to do?
I'll tell you what, maybe. I personally think it's about optimizing for search, and then there's kind of grassroots of CRO in there. But depending on the use case and where you are as a business, you may completely find that it's a completely different kettle of fish as a benefit. Mm-hmm. But I think to jump into it first and foremost, the biggest faux pas, the biggest mistake that people can make in the world of faceted nav is to allow search engines to access all of it. And when I say all of it, I'm talking about all the different permutations of faceted nav. So your sorting options, so bestsellers, low to high, high to low, in stock. All of your filter combinations like a brand and a color and a size, all these kind of things. Because what happens is for every category and every combination of filters and every sorting option you have, if anyone's any good at maths, you can kind of see a lot of zeros starting to form here. So you only need a couple hundred products to be in a situation where you could be looking at in excess of 1 million additional URLs. And that is just all the bad news when it comes to SEO and duplicate content and lots of complicated issues we won't get into now. So this is the number one reason why faceted nav is often, I guess, left and ignored, and because of the fear of getting it so wrong to the point where it can really hurt your SEO.
Yeah, I've worked with businesses in the past where our biggest SEO problem has been our faceted navigation. And the fact there's all these ridiculous pages that are just causing us all kinds of horrible SEO issues. So I know a lot of people just don't let the search engines index any of it. But given we're talking about it as a way of getting new customers through SEO, I'm guessing just turning it, we have to do some kind of decision-making process on what we allow the search engine to see and what we don't.
Yeah, exactly that. So I think first things first, if you're not confident, then block all of it. And when I say block all of it, I don't mean you've got some there at the moment. Block search engines from it. I mean, if you're starting from scratch, brand new site, brand new domain, that kind of thing, block search engines from your faceted nav, because it's much better to do that and then start to make improvements than kind of be blasé and let it access everything and then try and fix that hot mess later. But yes, you're right in the sense of there are some rules that you need to set. And the first one is, God, with the rules, wow. The first one.
I'm just wondering what's subconsciously gone on in your world in the last 24 hours. It's all rules today. It's all rules.
It really is. It really is. I don't know where it's come from, to be honest, but we'll roll with it. The first one is to really understand where search demand is and what people are searching for when they're looking for your particular products. So, perfect example, I have a client in the world of cards and all that kind of good stuff, whether it's stationery or gifts and mugs and that kind of thing. So lots of people, and I think cards is a really, really good example, because if we look at, say, birthday cards as a category, top level keyword, but then there's lots of different fragments off that, whether it's 60th, 21st, 3D cards, recyclable, cards for him, cards for her, for mum, for dad, for sister, boyfriend, girlfriend. There's lots of different fragments there. And if you need to kind of first understand where that demand is based upon keyword search. Now, people may be thinking, right, hold on, this sounds gold. How do I get into keyword data? Where do I find this information? For me, there's two real good tools you can use. One is SEMrush, and they have a tool called Keyword Magic, and you can just throw in your kind of parent category, if you like. So in this case, birthday cards, and it will kind of give you groupings and clusters of keywords that you can jump into. And then you start to see patterns. So you could see a lot of age-related ones, in which case there's probably a good opportunity for you to allow the age filter to be indexable. And the other tool is one by Sistrix, which is a little less well-known. Sistrix is a less popular tool, but equally as powerful. And just the same kind of thing as SEMrush, where it clusters and groups your keyword and finds you lots of different long tail and offshoot keywords opportunities. So that's really the first way to find where that demand is.
How are we spelling Sistrix?
Sistrix.
I had a C at the beginning, so I'm glad I asked. I put C's at the front of everything. It's got something to do with my name, I think. If there's an opportunity to put a C in the front, there'll be a C in the front. Okay, so you're saying we need to go away and find these keyword opportunities. So I guess when we're doing that, we're hunting for an opportunity that Faceted Nav can help us solve. Would that be a good way of thinking about it?
Yeah, exactly that. It's kind of like a full circle. So one is to find the demand, and one is to find whether it's worth even allowing it to index in the first place. So one could be, so if you're starting from scratch with a brand new site, this can be a great way to understand what filters and facets you should build in the first place.
For the conversion rate optimization side of things and the UX, not for an SEO perspective.
Exactly, because you're building it based upon what the users are looking for, not search at this point. But yes, so you kind of, I guess, doing that research allows you to tackle both search, demand, findability, but then also from an SEO perspective as well. So once you've got that nailed, and to be honest, that's a whole topic we could talk about, but we are short of time. So we'll move on to then. So once you've defined what facet groups, so age, gender, occasion, that sort of stuff you should allow to be indexed, then the next really important rule is understanding how many permutations, this is the complicated bit, how many permutations of facets you should allow to be indexed at any one time. And I'm going to break this down, don't worry. So
yeah, I'm crunching it. So yeah, let's just be clear, but what we mean by indexing. So we mentioned it a couple of times. I'm not sure we've fully joined the dot from what indexing is to what we're talking about.
Yeah, so index is kind of allowing search engines to explore that content, so crawl it, and then the search engine can then make a decision as to whether it wants to basically have that URL in its particular index. So we can't decide as webmasters, if you like, whether Google or Bing or whichever search engine you're using will index it or not, but we can control whether we allow it to be indexed in any regard whatsoever. So is it visible in search engines in simple terms?
We can stop them from going there, but we can't make them go there.
Exactly.
Cool. That was a very good explanation of indexing. So break it down, that very complicated calculation we need to do.
Okay. So what the magic, this is going to be difficult for me to explain. I feel like I'm going to have to get a drawing board out and a chalkboard and lasers and everything. Right. So this is how many combinations of filters you allow accessible by search engines at once. So to give you an example, rather than kind of walk through a thesis, it's kind of like if you have 21st as a selected option in a filter, and on top of that, you would also have, let's say, for her, and then on top of that, you might have A5 as a card size. Now, that, of course, is a permutation of 3. There's a very, very slim chance that someone's going to be searching online for that specific type of card. And if they are, they're so small in numbers that it's just not worth allowing that to be crawled by search engines. As a golden rule, another one, right? Should we just call this the rules of facet?
We should just call it the rules of successful SEO.
The way that the typical rule of thumb here is no more than 2 combined. So you might have occasion could be anniversary, and it could be for him or for granddad or for brother or something like that. So that way, when someone's searching for grandparents' anniversary or brother's 21st birthday, there's enough granularity there for you to target those keywords with some really cool products, but not too detailed where you'll just kind of bloat in search engines with lots of different URLs to crawl. And it's not deep enough where it's too shallow. So you're only searching for anniversary rather than grandparents' anniversary or wedding anniversary or something like that. Got it.
So we're using our keyword research to work out what facets we need, probably for for CRO purposes, but definitely what we're going to allow out into the search engine's index. And then rather than allowing it to become, as we were talking about earlier, the bloated, hideous site with all the pages and duplicated content, we're probably going to limit it to maximum of 2 facets at any one time to go into the index. And is that, logically, in my head, that makes an awful lot of sense. Seems quite easy to do. Is it easy to do on a website?
If depends how good your relationship is with your developers, because it takes a heck of a lot of specification, and it depends on the system you're working with, right? So it's a completely different kettle of fish if you're working with faceted navigation that powers from Ajax versus JavaScript. But it depends on the technology that you're looking at. But yes, it is often possible, but of course there's always edge cases. There is something else that I wanted to throw out there as well as a bit of a kind of like disclaimer, which is, although I've said 2 is a good area, there sometimes can be occasions where 1 might be detailed enough, depending on what it is you sell and how big or small your website is and how many products you have. And sometimes maybe 3 can be what you need. I think I'm trying my hardest not to say something with the word rule in there now, but I'm thinking the rule of thumb, right, is the more complicated your product set, the more facets you might want in combination. So if you're, let's say, someone like RS Components, which is super, super technical, lots of different specification, you're probably going to want more facets available to index than something like birthday cards, which is typically quite simple in the grand scheme of things.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking that if we've got someone watching who maybe sells handkerchiefs and they only sell one size of handkerchief, then to be honest, they're probably only going to go for one facet level because it might be spots or checks, or it might just literally be the pattern, might be their only extra level.
Very, very good point. And I think this is where SEO and CRO start to divide, because although I've very clearly said that you only want to allow 2 permutations of facets to be indexed, you can have as many as you want from a user perspective. So you don't want to stop users from selecting 8, 9, 10 different options, depending on how granular and what it is they're looking for. So if they go into cards, there's nothing wrong with them selecting funny, 21st, for him, A4. There's nothing wrong with that. And you want users to be able to use all the combinations of filters they want. But that's where the difference is between helping users and aligning search engines. So that's where things start to converge a little bit.
And the real important bit of what we want to end up on the search engine, to end up in the index, is that it's a term which is likely to have a volume of people actually searching for it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because otherwise it's pointless to be there.
That's right. You're just wasting crawl quota. And I say it in quotes because crawl quota is this mythical unicorn creature of a metric that a lot of people believe doesn't exist. But in my opinion, whether you believe it exists or not as a metric, by making your site more efficient to crawl cannot be a bad thing. So don't abuse it.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of, it logically has to make sense that the fewer pages you've got, then the easier it is for the search engines to understand you. But I may be using my amateur wording, opening up a whole world of pain. So let's just, when we're talking about removing a page from this, or stopping the search engines indexing a page, what's the mechanism for doing that?
How much time do we have, Chloe?
Well, we've got about another 4 minutes.
Okay.
But I guess, let me rephrase it. Is it that we submit a list of URLs to the search engine? Is it that we put something visible on that page? Is it that we pray? For those out there who are new to this, or who recently become responsible for SEO and are going, oh my god, what's our basic mechanism for doing this? Because I am aware this could be a whole podcast series.
Oh no, I'm trying not. Anyone who's falling asleep, I apologise, but you just got a few more minutes of technical nonsense.
It's my fault. If you're falling asleep, it's not Luke's fault. It's my fault for asking the question. All
right, so I've just got rule of thumb coming into my thought. Okay, right. The thing is, right, I'm just going to say thing when I can't think of things. We want to canonicalize as best as we can. So I guess let me talk through the do nots, like the absolute, just whatever you decide to do, make sure you don't do this. One is add those facets or parameters. And when I say parameters, I mean URL parameters, question mark equals yada yada, into robots.txt. Don't do that. Don't do that if these URLs already exist. and have already had access, or search engines have already had access to these, because all you do is create a black hole of equity that can't move. So it's the absolute worst thing to do. Don't do that. You might wish to consider adding no follow, no index, which is like a hard directive to search engines that you cannot crawl this. That can help.
That's a tag that sits on the page, like our meta description, our title tag sits on the page, isn't it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
sits in the head.
Okay.
The downside of doing that is if anyone's linked to that page, which is possible. So if someone's linked to 21st birthday cards with a faceted option from a really authoritative place, like Mumsnet or I don't know, God knows where else. But if you do no follow, no index, those backlinks won't contribute. They won't count. They're again locked away.
Because of course, link builders, damn them, they do often link to the page we don't want them to link to. And you're not going to get them to link to your 21st birthday card category if they decided to link to the faceted. So yeah, so that was the what was that one? Sorry.
That was no follow, no index. That's what you should do.
Index. So that's dangerous. I didn't know that was dangerous. Interesting.
Yeah, because it creates a trap of equity, which you can't move around. So the often best compromise, it has its pros and cons, is a canonical. And the beauty of a canonical is that any links that are passed to this page you don't want indexed, you canonicalize it to somewhere else, which is normally it might be a category above it. So if you have a URL for, again, it has 3 permutations in, and you've said that you only want to allow 2 to be indexed, then you canonicalize it to the same URL with the last one lobbed off the end. So it goes from canonicalizing from the 3 permutations to 2. And then what happens is any equity that's got sent to the third one will be rolled up into the second one.
So that's kind of like a little hint to the search engine to say, look, you found our page for 21st birthday for her that's funny. Mm-hmm. And really you want to be looking at this page that's 21st birthday for her.
Yes.
So it's kind of it's a suggestion rather than a hard and fast, hence it doesn't have the downsides.
Exactly. And there was something that you just mentioned, which I'd love to squeeze in, which is you mentioned that the people not linking to the 21st birthday category and instead linking to the 21st birthday facet or filter, whatever you decide to call it. There's a very distinct rule, really a counterful rule. There's a very distinct differentiation that your categories and your facets should have. And that should be that there should be no overlap between your categories and your facets. So if you have categories for all the major birthday milestones, which is, to be honest, quite rare, you shouldn't really do that. But if that's just what you've inherited, let's be honest, the world isn't perfect, then don't then go and create a facet which cannibalizes and kind of competes directly with that category. So your facets should be entirely complementary to your categories. They shouldn't be attacking the same keywords. To kind of use a really good example, card category, birthday cards as a category, for him, for her as a category, and then age, color, and anything that's really quite granular should be a filter or a facet, but they shouldn't exist as both, because that just causes a whole heap of problem that we haven't got the time to talk about.
Everyone who's watching this in the summit can see Luke's pain at the mere thought of people creating both categories that mirror their faceted navigation. He's clearly felt this pain many times. And for those of you who are watching this live in the summit, we are also going to be putting this out as a podcast episode. And I think I'm going to challenge the podcast listeners to count how many times we use the word rule as they listen. Because it's been busy. Well, Luke, that has been a masterclass, quite frankly, in faceted navigation. Success in 2021 means building stronger relationships with your customers. Last year saw a lot of consumers switching to buy online, leading to surges in new customer acquisition. So how are you planning on turning your new first-time buyers into profitable repeat customers? Well, that's what Klaviyo is for. Klaviyo helps businesses create memorable marketing moments through email, SMS, and personalised website experiences. And that is what creates repeat purchases. That's why Klaviyo, the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform, is used by over 50,000 e-commerce brands around the world. Get started with your free account today. Visit klaviyo.com/masterplan. That's KLAVIYO.com/masterplan. So, welcome back to the podcast proper. You've just heard my interview with Luke Carthy for our eCommerce MasterPlan Virtual Summit 2021. It's available for you to access for free at keepopt.com/summit. Sorry, can't read my own writing. That is keepopt.com/summit. After recording that summit session, Luke stuck around to record the rest of the podcast with me. So, Luke, are you ready to do the podcast insider tips bit?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, Luke, so far we've gone deep into faceted navigation. Now you get to wow us with your insider knowledge about the whole of SEO. So for the following questions, your answer can be anything to do with SEO, which does, of course, include faceted navigation. So, Luke, you ready for these?
I'm ready. Let's have them.
Let's start with newbie advice. If we've inspired someone to take their first step with SEO, what do they need to know to give themselves the best chance of success?
Technical. I would always say technical SEO is where you should get started, but don't let the name put you off, because I know the word technical sounds, well, technical. But it doesn't have to be. Like, I think just download a copy of Screaming Frog. It's free. Crawl a site, grab 500 URLs and just take a look, start to understand the basics of HTML, and just how crawlers kind of work and move around a site can be really helpful. Outside of that, I think understanding where links happen on a website, inside all links happen on a website, can have so much influence to organic rankings across the entire website. So whether you're talking about a small e-commerce store, a 5-page static site, or a multi-billion page listing place like car gurus in the States, for example, internal linking is equally as important for everything. So really understanding and getting into that is a sure way to make sure that you will be one step ahead in the world of SEO.
And the ice cream man's just come past.
Yeah.
So
need to know a thing or two about SEO.
Anyone who's listening on the podcast, there isn't an ice cream van near you. There's an ice cream van near Luke. I'm not going to let him go and buy an ice cream, and we're going to finish off these questions. Okay. Once you've started, of course, you've got to keep optimizing. So what's your favorite way to improve SEO performance?
Okay. Now I can't concentrate because I'm thinking about an ice cream. Okay. So the best thing to do to keep improving is to look at optimizing I've just used the word in the question. All right, is to constantly find ways to make crawling more efficient for search engines. So getting rid of bloat URLs, which does, of course, cover faceted nav. Look at ways to develop thin content. So if you've got lots of products with no descriptions, or really kind of rushed put together blog posts just to get something ready for launch and it's not doing very well. But yeah, just identifying ways that Google and other search engines are looking at your site and then going, nah, I'm not really that bothered, and finding opportunities to make it better. So one of the best tools in that to identify these, of course, is Google Search Console. It's completely free. If you don't have this for any sites you manage or own, why? Like, seriously, if you listen to an SEO podcast, you should just have that. It's really easy to go and get. But then take a look at the excluded section in the coverage report, because that will tell you everything you need to know about what Google has crawled and then decided to throw in the bin because it's not interested in. And then you can start to identify what to do with those URLs. Do you make them better? Do you scrap them? Or is it something in between?
Nice. Okay. If someone listening wants to learn more about SEO, is there one cheap or free resource you would recommend?
Yes. So the SEMrush blog is really good, absolutely loaded with information. I'm going to kick myself. But Aleda Solis has got a great resource. I forget the actual domain name now, but if you type in Aleda Solis and learning SEO, she has a absolutely fantastic, she's put so much time into this, dedicated resource teaching you all the basics of technical SEO and how to get started. So that's great. I might have mentioned Ahrefs blog already. Moz has got a really good stack of content as well, which you can go and take a look into. Whether you're interested in content, PR, link building, technical, whatever it is your flavour of interest in the world of SEO, then those resources are always gold to get stuck into.
Nice. And we will find the links to all of those and add them in the show notes for everyone. Okay, finally, it's crystal ball time. What's coming up in the next 6 to 12 months that we should be getting ready for in SEO?
Just Google being more of a pain in the arse. I think it's the only way I can, because every time this happens, like they just move in ways that makes it more difficult for SEOs to do what they need to do. So to give you an example, I think they're testing, and I say testing with a big pinch of salt because they switched something on for a very small amount of time in the US or Canada, which was car listings. So it looks like they're about to start robbing lots of traffic from the likes of Auto Trader and Gumtree Motors, eBay Motors, by offering their own, just like when you look for hotels or flights and you get that big featured snippet of content from Google. Just more of that, to be honest, is what you can probably expect. More Google and less of the links, and less of the organic links. But as always, the rule is oh God, I did it again. All right. The rule is just optimize for your users and not for search engines, and you normally will be okay. Like, just build an experience that is better than everybody else's because it's better for your customers. Very much easier said than done, but if you stay on that trajectory, that basically didn't answer the question. My prediction is, Google just been more pain in the arse.
I think that answered the question. Especially because I always like it when people say optimize for the user, not for the search engine, because that is at the root of all successful SEO. But Luke, we are very nearly at the end of the show, so could you please let the listeners know where they can find you and your business on the web and social media, please?
Yeah, so you can find me at lukecarthy.com. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Luke Carthy. If you look for a guy called Luke Carthy, it's probably not me. It's definitely not me. Why am I saying probably? Like, I've got another identity. Google me. Like, I'm about. There's not too many Luke Carthys in the world, so I've got that going for me, which is great. But if you want to find me, you will find me online somewhere.
Excellent. Well, Luke, thank you very much for doing both the summit and the podcast. You've given us all a lot of great information and loads of great resources too. So thanks for being on the show.
No, it's fun as always, Chloe. Thanks again for having me.
Well, I hope you liked our little mashed up episode today, where we've taken that part from the virtual summit and then added on the extra insider tips for you. And I think you'll agree that Luke did a fantastic job of explaining how you can approach your faceted navigation to give both the maximum conversion rate optimization bonuses, as well as have it have a very positive impact on your SEO and limit the negative impact that it's possible to have when you treat your faceted nav badly. Now, you get links to everything we discussed, the full transcript of the episode, important notes and more at keepoptimizing.com. And Luke is also one of the members of my eCommerce MasterPlan crew, which is a brilliant band of e-commerce marketing practitioners who can help you take your marketing up a notch. Find out how you can connect with Luke and the rest of them at ecommercemasterplan.com/crew. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Keep Optimizing podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you check out the rest of our SEO episodes, because they're all there to help you improve your SEO and get that traffic from Google. And please do tell your fellow marketers about the show, because we create it to help as many of you as possible. So the more people you can tell, the more people we can help improve the performance of their marketing. Have a great week, and make sure you listen to the next episode so I can help you to keep optimizing your marketing.
Access everything Keep Optimizing at keepoptimizing.com. That's with an S, not a Z.